All right, I think our participant numbers are kind of evening out now, so we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jen Wetley, and I am the Assistant Director for Parent and Family Connections. Just want to thank you all again for attending tonight. To get things started, we have several of our campus partners here that are going to go over a few different things tonight. Um, we are we have families tonight here of all of our summer beginners. So both our early start program, our summer start program, those that are on the residential side, and those that are going to be joining us online. I do want to give you a little bit of a heads up that a lot of our topics tonight will revolve around that residential piece, but we do have information that will be very helpful and very handy for those of you, for families who have students who will be on the online side. So do stick around with us. A quick overview of the topics that we are going to cover tonight. Here in a moment, we'll have Heather Sarati Saib. I hope, Heather, I didn't get that too far off. Will give us a quick welcome. John Gibson will then go over the overview of the programs. We will be going over the Protect Purdue Pledge and Bright Space trainings. Give you an idea of the redesigned classroom spaces here on campus. The Protect Purdue Health Center will be here. We have Michelle and Ellen that will be talking about paying for Purdue and how that process works. John will come back and give us an overview of what's going to be covered next week. And then we will be bringing all of our panelists back for some question and answers. So before we get started with our first presenter, I do want to let all of our families know, or please ask that you submit all of your questions in the Q&A box. You may also see a chat box, but you're going to need to put those questions in the Q&A, so then that way we are able to see those. Feel free to ask at any time those questions, but please note that during the presentations, those may be covered. If not, we will circle back to the facilitated question and answer at the end. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Heather tonight, and she's going to give us a welcome. So Heather?
Thanks so much, Jen. So I'm Heather Servati Saib, and I am the Interim Associate Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning at Purdue. And I'm so glad to have the chance to welcome you to this session. We appreciate that you have taken the time to be here and to learn more about the summer starts programs. Time feels even more precious these days. I know it does to me, and so you being here is really important to us, and we really appreciate it. So we are really looking forward to your children, your grandchildren, your students joining us at Purdue. You have so much to be proud of in terms of all that they've accomplished, their persistence, their tenacity in the face of a global pandemic, and also their admission to Purdue, their connection to Purdue. We've been preparing for their arrival, and we have absolutely missed having students on our campus. As you know, we are all of campus will not function in the same way that it has. It can't out of necessity, and we're all going to be grieving the old normal that we hoped for and that we had wished for. But that does not mean that your students will not grow, develop, learn, and have an amazing time at Purdue. You'll be learning a lot more about all of what the summer programs have planned, and I think you're really going to be pleased and also excited to hear all that will be happening. The focus is on physical distancing, but it's not on social distancing. So we really want to encourage you to encourage your students to take wise social risks and to reach out even more to their peers and to the resources that are available than they might have in the past. We also want to encourage you to have conversations with your students before they come on campus. Conversations about COVID-19 and the risks that are involved and the need to protect others. Conversations about racism and the racial unrest that's happening in the US right now. And these conversations will help them to be prepared to engage in those topics when they are here with us at Purdue. A primary focus as we welcome our new cohort of summer students is their health and safety. And that's physically, and it's also in terms of their mental well-being. So thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to sharing some really important information with you.
Thank you, Heather.
Mhm.
So, hi everyone. I'm John Gibson. I'm the director of summer session here at Purdue University. I also want to welcome you to Purdue. Really excited to have your students come next week. For those of you who will be coming, there are over 600 students who are coming to campus, which is a record for the Early Start program. Last year, we had about 350 students between Summer Start and Early Start. This year, we're just over 600 students who will be coming to campus for the two programs. There are another 315 students who will be completing courses fully online, and there's another 100 freshmen who started taking courses earlier. So just over 1,000 of our freshmen from our incoming class have chosen to begin their Purdue journey during the summer. There are over 19,000 total students taking classes during the summer at Purdue. So summer is pretty popular. We have one of the larger summer sessions in the country, but that's because we have students graduating faster than ever before from Purdue University. We have students earning multiple majors, multiple minors, still graduating within 4 years. I know one girl graduating this coming year has 2 majors, 3 minors, and the certificate of entrepreneurship, and she's still graduating from Purdue in only 4 years. She's also completed a paid internship every summer, earned some credits for that, and she's done online courses alongside them. We didn't have the Early Start program when she started as a freshman, but I'm sure if we did, she would have been in that year as well. So a couple quick updates and reminders for you all. Classes start on Monday, July 13th. The only exception to that is if your students are in the College of Engineering or Exploratory Studies and they're taking Engineering 131, 133, 195, those courses start online Monday, July 6th. Make sure to remind them their class starts Monday, July 6th. If they're in those three, their professors will be communicating with them very soon. And even the students who are coming to campus start the class online for Engineering 131, 133, and 195. And then they'll pick up the residential components when they come to campus on the 13th. Other students who are fully online will continue their course. Classes end on August 7th if it's a regular Mod 3 summer course. Primarily our online students, their classes may end on August 7th. Our residential students will be completing classes until August 14th. There are some online courses as well that go until August 14th. So remind your student to check their schedule. During orientation, even if your student's online, they can join our technology session and they'll be able to see how to view their schedule, how to navigate Brightspace, which is our learning management system, how to upload assignments and stuff. So please encourage your student to join that technology session on Sunday, July 12th. And we'll be sending information about that in the orientation. Move-in for students who are coming to campus, move-in is on July 9th and July 10th. Most of your students have already selected dates to move in and the times, but if they haven't, please encourage them to do so. Go back to those Friday updates that I've been sending for about the last month. I'll send another link on this Friday, so in 2 days, of where to find that time. Most of the times on Friday are taken. Sometimes for all programs on Friday are taken by this time. If your student has not selected a time to, they should have received an email from Katie May from our office encouraging them to register. Please do that as soon as possible. This time, I'm going to flip it back to Heather to talk with you all a little bit about the Protect Purdue Pledge and our Brightspace training modules. So I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you, John.
Take it away, Heather.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk with you a little bit now about the health and safety training that all students who are coming back to Purdue will be required to do. It's called How Can You Protect Purdue from COVID-19? And this training, we're really pleased to say, was developed by students, developed for students by a group of students, faculty, and staff working together. So the training is online. Again, it will be required, and John will be sending out information about how to get connected with the training so that all students can complete it before they come on campus. The mechanism through which students will acknowledge and commitment to the Purdue Pledge will be included in this training, and they'll also be notified about the process of contact tracing. Those will all be elements of the training itself. The training is focused on the why, like why do we engage? Why are we going to be engaging in these health and safety behaviors? And also the what, the particulars of the behaviors. How do you appropriately wash your hands? How do you appropriately put on and take off a mask? How do you wash it? Just the specifics in terms of those behaviors as well. There is a quiz that is connected to the training, and students must receive 100% on the quiz in order to be done with the training, and they can take it as many times as is needed. So that's a kind of a general overview. And the next slide, John, if you could. And so in terms of the content of the training, and getting into the specifics of the why, we're really going to be talking with students in this training. And actually, I will say who's talking is Hannah Walter, who is the Vice President of the Purdue Student Government, who is on our committee. She is the one that actually speaks to the students in the training module itself. So we talk about why do you protect Purdue? Well, very particularly and of interest we find really to the students is to keep the campus open. If we were to have an outbreak on campus, we very likely would need to close campus, and then none of us could be here and to be present and have on-campus experiences, and students wouldn't necessarily be able to have that residential experience that so many of them are hoping for. We also, of course, engage in these behaviors to protect those that we care about, those the students care about. And what we know from students is that they really care a lot about their peers. They care a lot about the family members of their peers. They care a lot about faculty and staff in terms of how they are doing. And so what we really emphasize in this section as well is that although we hear a lot in the media, we have a lot of students at Purdue who are also at risk, and some of them will be on campus. We talk with the students about how you cannot know who is at risk. If we look at the factors that put people most at risk, autoimmune, situations that put people in a compromised autoimmune functioning, diabetes, asthma, those are not conditions that you can really see by looking at people. So we really encourage the students to keep in mind that they're not going to be able to identify who is most at risk. So it's very important for them to engage in all of these behaviors, even if they might doubt that the person that they're with is at risk. We've been contacted actually by Purdue students who had cancer when they were children. And that creates a situation for them that puts them at very high risk. So it's very important to the whole community that students engage in these behaviors like wearing masks, like physical distancing, that are very doable and very workable, but make a tremendous difference to those that they engage in. We talk about how every behavior is really powerful prevention. And then we have a module where we really talk about the corners that they're connected to on campus, the organizations that they're involved in, the offices that they engage in most. Every subunit on campus is committed to protecting Purdue. So we really relate to students on that identity level, who they are. I mean, we're all Boilermakers, and so we can identify in that way, but many of our students have subunits on campus, smaller communities that they're a part of. And all of those communities, in terms of that identity connection, are really invested in protecting Purdue and invested in engaging in these behaviors. Then we have a section where we talk a lot about all of what Purdue has invested in terms of the safety of the campus. If you've been following the news, you're following the emails from Purdue, there has been a lot of investment, a lot of money, a lot of human time, just tremendous, tremendous effort has gone into preparing the campus for your students and the students who will be coming in the fall. But what Purdue has done is not enough. You know, that investment is not enough to protect the campus and to protect those that we care about. It really is the students' everyday investment that's critical in terms of protecting themselves and others, and the whole community. The pledge is actually also a part then of the training, and it represents that everyday investment in terms of what are we talking about, in terms of those behaviors that will lead to that powerful prevention. And so what we have on the next 3 slides are the specifics of the pledge so that you can see it's really about monitoring symptoms. You can see the specifics there. It's about washing hands with soap, water, using hand sanitizer, getting vaccinated for flu in the fall, that the students will maintain appropriate social distancing, especially in the classroom settings or in the presence of older members of the community. But again, we're going to stress in this training that you cannot look at someone and know if they're at risk. And you also can't know if you are positive because you're asymptomatic. So those two things in combination, we're really stressing those to the students. And if you could do the same, we sure would appreciate it. Students are committing to stay home if they feel ill, or if they know they've been exposed. We're really working with the faculty on attendance policies. We know that Purdue students want to push through. We're talking about that in the training as well, that this is not a time to push through. This is a time, if you're not feeling well, to stay away from class. I wasn't quite done, John. Okay, so wearing the appropriate face mask and other protective gear, and being positive and attentive and helpful to anyone around who may be in need of support. And then the last part of the pledge is that all, and I keep saying students, but it's all of Purdue that's committing to this. It's faculty and staff as well. Keeping clothing, belongings, personal spaces, and shared common spaces clean. Participating in testing and contact tracing. All of the students will be notified of the details of contact tracing as a part of the training. They will also be entering their most updated address and telephone number so that the contact tracing can work as effectively as possible. And they also commit to carefully observing the instructional signs and following directions. We have a really great marketing and media team that has really gotten into all of the signage everywhere, reminding people often about the particular aspects of the pledge and how to follow those and how we can all work together to protect Purdue. So thank you, John.
Thanks, Heather. I'm going to jump over now and I'll talk with you a little bit about redesigning classrooms. So I'm going to pull up another document and then I'll share my screen with you again. All right. One sec, still pulling up our PowerPoint. All right, I think this is going to work. All right, so now on my screen, you should be able to see so what an example of what a classroom looks like. So if maybe you've had other students at Purdue or you've been to campus, but here's a really good example of a before classroom. So this is Walk 2087, actually a room that we're using this summer. So you can see the before picture of how the desk used to be aligned. The desk could be moved around so students could be in little pods and things. But you know, there's a lot of chairs in there. It's pretty close. And now you can see the after pictures. This room is actually prepared for the summer. The students are apart. There's at least 4 feet between every student in the classroom. The capacities of our classrooms too have been reduced by about 50%, some further than 50% to account for this. We also have enhanced cleaning of our classrooms that will be occurring throughout the session. So I'll show you a few examples. This is Walk 2087, again, an actual room that the students will be in this summer if they're coming to campus. The next room, here's another kind of from the back of what it used to look like, what it looks like now. So again, you can see how spread out this is. One thing that we're asking students, some faculty are encouraging, if your students can bring a dry erase marker with them. or their own dry erase markers this year. Traditionally, we have dry erase markers in the room, so students can just go up, they can grab them, we can write on the boards and whatnot. But this year, we're asking students not to share their markers, the faculty. That may be something to add to your student supply kit. So here's another one, Walk 2127. It's an example of a smaller classroom. And again, active learning rooms, you can move these chairs all around. So students could go in little pods, they could be in squares, they can be in rectangles, they can move around the room. Their professor can come and interact with them. But now you can see how these drawings are. There's actually stickers on the floor too that signify where the chairs go. So the students and the faculty know. And you can see here there's 6 feet between the rows, and you have 4 feet 9 inches between every chair. And these are all following CDC guidance. So CDC guidance is the same with the mask. If we go 3 to 6 feet away, that's appropriate social distancing. So all students and professors will be wearing those masks. Here's an example of Walk 3138. So again, another classroom that we're using this summer. We'll be using it again in the fall. You can see how the classroom looked before and how the classroom looks now. It's really not that different. Your students are going to be interacting with others. They won't be isolated in their rooms. They'll be having a full residential experience, but it'll just look a little different than the past. And this is the same room from the back. Some of our other active learning rooms, you can see how they've been adjusted. There's some tables in there and how we've been moving them. Bearings and others are drawing for that one. Some large lectures, these are other ones that we get a lot of questions about. So how's my large lecture going to look? You can see these little green dots here on my screen will signify where the students can sit. And there's little stickers there to signify the chairs that students can use. They will be spread out again. Bearing, another example of a large lecture. Armstrong, there's 6 feet between every row, at least 5 feet between the students. Again, another room. All of these are rooms that we're actually using this summer for the program. We also have a lot of these plexiglass barriers that are around. We have these in some study spaces too. So students can use them, they can pull them, they can drag them around if they'd like to protect themselves a little bit more when they're in the classroom studying and the professors. Some of our largest lecture room that we're using during the summer is Walk 1055. That's where a lot of our orientation events will be occurring. Our Psych 120 class will be there. So if any of your students are enrolled there with Psych 120 with Dr. Hollick, he's a Murphy Award-winning faculty member, which goes to the best teacher at Purdue University every year. Students they love George. George is very excited to welcome people back to campus. He will even sing to the students at the beginning of each class. And I think that's why they remember the materials so well and do so well in his class. But his class will have 120 students enrolled, and typically that room holds 350 people. So it may look a little empty to your students because they're spread out, but remind them that this is part of the Protect Purdue plan. If you have any questions about the classroom spaces, we're happy to answer some of those later. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. This way, Kathy Scott from the Protect Purdue Health Center can take it from here. Kathy, I'm going to make you the presenter.
All right, let me see if I can't share my screen here and pick the right one. Oh golly, it's giving me a number, so I'm going to have to guess which screen has my presentation up on it. That would not be that one. So let me stop sharing a second. And let me share. Try screen. There we go. I think maybe I fit it the right one. Now, are you all able to see my screen? 2020, so start early time. John, can you see it?
It's loading for us, Kathy.
Okay. It says I am sharing the screen.
Kathy, I can see it.
Okay. All right. Think we're good to go then? let's get started. My name is Kathy Scott. I, as John said, am with the Health Center, and actually function also on the health monitoring and surveillance oversight team here at Purdue. And we are thrilled to have everybody with us tonight, and looking forward to having all of the students join us on early start and summer start programs. Let me see if I can advance. Alrighty, so Protect Purdue readiness. And I guess I would also like to just reaffirm all that Heather said from the standpoint of we all, parents and students, faculty, staff, we are all part of the solution. And Purdue's worked very diligently to try to determine the best solution for the time and the information that we have at hand at this point, and completing the Protect Purdue training video and determining that and committing to living the pledge. Living the pledge, it will make all the difference for each of us, and all of the friends for lifetime that your students are going to meet that they don't even know right now. I will also go over a remote check-in process that you will be all participating in, which will involve some temperature screening. And then I will also finish up with some information and a few details about the Protect Purdue Health Center. So when it comes to checking in, the check-in process will be at a remote parking lot. And during that check-in process, you'll stay in your car. You must be wearing a mask to enter any Purdue building under any circumstances. You are always expecting to wear a mask. So keep one with you, maybe keep an extra one with you, but be sure that it's that you're wearing it. So we'll ask you to stay in your car, have your mask on. The staff that will assist with check-in, they will be using a no-contact infrared thermometer, and they will be taking the temperature of the student that will be checking in and the 1 or 2 move-in helpers that they have along with them. So the definition of a fever in the current COVID-19 environment is if you have a temperature at or above 100.4 degrees, you're considered to be febrile. And if that were to occur in the student, if the student were to happen to have that fever, the student would then be directed to contact the Protect Purdue Health Center. And I'll give you some more information about that. But they will not be allowed to go to the dorm or to the residence halls check-in. If any of the helpers, the 1 or 2 helpers that are designated to help the student move in, were to demonstrate a fever of 100.4 or above, they will not be allowed any entry also into the residence hall, and will have to find a place to wait to hook up back again with the car as you leave campus to go home. And the purpose of this is, above all else, we are protecting the students, the faculty, the staff for any chance of someone being infectious, maybe not having any other symptoms, but we are in a position to hold a pretty hard line when it comes to symptom management in our current environment. And it's the right thing for us to do. And at that point, assuming everybody is good to go and they can have the information about check-in, from that point in time, we will either be putting on a wristband, a hand stamp, but an indication that indeed you have been through the check-in process to include the temperature scanning. The Protect Purdue Health Center. So we've got you here. You are ready to go. Your students are ready to go. And you as parents certainly are ready to see them succeed on every front. The Protect Purdue Health Center has been established and has began operations this past Monday. It is primarily a virtual center, although we do have physical on-site space and staffing also. But the Protect Purdue Health Center expects a few things for you to remember. And you're going to hear more about this later. The details are not quite ready to be rolled out, but all faculty, students, and staff will be using what we call a Basecamp app. It's a self-monitoring health status check-in daily. On your phone, there'll be a web app that will be downloaded on your phone. The initial registration will walk you through a couple of one-time only steps. And then the expectation is that the student will check in using that app every day. And by checking in, it's about a 10-second process where open up the app, go down a list of symptoms. If any of those symptoms or any of those situations were to have been experienced by your student, then they will check that. And depending on what combination of maybe symptoms or circumstances they've checked, they'll get a green, good to go, and a date stamp for that day. Or they might get a yellow where they're suggested that they call and talk to someone at the Purdue Health Center, or they might even get a red, in which case there will be a telephone number for a student to tap directly, which will direct them to the case managers that are dedicated to manage any COVID-19 related questions that might come up. The Protect Purdue Health Center is existing really as a single point of contact for anything related to COVID-19 on the campus for all faculty, staff, and students. That number is staffed and available at what you see on your screen, 765-496-INFO or 4636. And then there's also a toll-free what we used to call 1-800, but here 81833 number. Those calls will be routed for anything COVID related to the PHHC case managers. Those are all registered nurses. And if the question or concern happens to be about something else that is a general health matter, it will be routed to our Purdue University Student Health Center, or what we call PUSH, for those more general questions. Self-monitoring, again, of your health is critical. It's your contribution, and it represents your students' commitment to be a part of the solution to maintaining a really healthy, vibrant campus. Again, the Ascend Basecamp app expectations would be that completing that one-time registration process, the daily self-monitoring, and again, seeing that green screen, you're good to go to class for that day. And it is possible that a professor may ask to see your phone, may ask to see the phone of all the students, may randomly check some phones. You know, if you have that green screen that has been stamped with that day's stamp, you are absolutely good to go. So again, the Protect Purdue Health Center is that single point of contact for all things COVID-19 and any questions and answers. The case managers are all registered nurses, and those case managers will be determining the next appropriate step or next course of action specific to your needs. And it is absolutely individualized case management, care management of all that are involved. All of our medical care and case management is physician directed by medical subject matter experts and medical protocols that they've been working hard to develop. We do have an on-site medical director dedicated to oversight of all things COVID-19. If indeed it were come to be necessary, the campus will operate and maintain isolation quarters for any students that are found to be in need of isolation. And just a quick definition of terms, isolation means that is the separation of people that are sick, that are symptomatic, that are sick. Campus will provide on-site COVID-19 testing and sampling collection, and we will be doing that 5 days a week as we begin to ramp up with the numbers of people coming back to campus. We also have an accredited lab on site that will be providing our laboratory testing of our samples. And the campus Protect Purdue Health Center also is the mechanism by which all contact tracing will occur. Any situations that are necessary for follow-up contact tracing are directly handed off for follow-up by the case managers when that's indicated. And with that, I think I will call it a close and just end by being confident that everybody is going to stay healthy and committed to protecting not only oneself, but all the other Boilermakers around us. So, Hill Purdue. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kathy. I'll also add that every student, when they move in, they're going to get a name tag. And earlier today, we were testing out, what layouts we could have for them, and we were able to fit the entire Protect Purdue pledge on the back of every name tag,
Cool.
and the toll-free number to the Protect Purdue Health Center. So if your students need it, they'll just be able to lift their name tag up, see those requirements, see that number, and they can call over to the health center.
All right. Thank you so much, Catherine and John, for that. Just a quick reminder to all of our attendees tonight. We see lots of questions coming in the Q&A, so thank you so much for that. We will be getting to the question and answer portion of that. We've answered some of those as we could. A lot of those are going to be asked back to our panelists here shortly. So go ahead and keep asking those questions in there and we will get to them. Now we are going to move on to the Paying for Purdue section, and we're going to start with Michelle tonight.
Hello, I'm Michelle from the Bursar's office, and I'm going to go over some of the Bursar related items tonight. And then when I get through that, Ellen will come on from financial aid and go through some more of the financial aid tasks. I'm going to try to share my screen here so that we can walk through this together. So hopefully everybody can see my screen now. This is actually our website for the Bursar's office. So if you've been out there, it may look familiar. If you have not, you may want to mark to go look at that later, because there is a lot of helpful information out here that's going to help you or your students as you come to campus. So the first thing I actually want to focus on is our student account management tips, and you're going to find that right in the middle of the web page when you go to it. I didn't mention the link, and I will mention that. It is www.purdue.edu/Bursar, and that's how you get to us. If you click on the account management tips, it's going to take you to a page where it lists a lot of useful information for you. Sorry, I'm getting asked to move closer to my mic, so hopefully that helps. When you get out there, the student account management tips is kind of like a checklist as you're coming to campus with important tasks. So parents or guardians, if you need access to your students' financial information, you will want them to initiate or set you up as an authorized user. So that's the first important task that we ask that you take care of, because if you do contact the Bursar's office, that's the first thing we look at, is whether the student has authorized you for the information. The next task that we always like to point out is to confirm enrollment, and your student will need to complete this task every semester they're at Purdue. The reason being is typically we want to know who's on campus or who's planning to attend for this semester. But the other piece of that is if they're anticipating to use financial aid, the financial aid will not post to their account until they click the confirm enrollment link every semester on their My Purdue page. The next thing I want to focus on is e-refund accounts. Again, if your student's anticipating to use financial aid and needs the refund for books or other supplies, this will allow us to get that refund to the student more quickly. Then we go into how to review your invoice when that is issued, payment options that are available for paying your bill to Purdue, what the due dates are for tuition, and it's listed there for each of the semesters, fall, spring, and summer 2021. For the current summer of 2020, so the term we're in currently, your due date for those fees that were just assessed is July 13th. So you'll want to keep that in mind and just make sure that you get your bill paid by July 13th. The next thing I want to show you is on our website. Up at the top, there's like a little guide. There's tutorials. And if you click the tutorial link, you'll be able to find step-by-step instructions on how to do different tasks related to your financial or paying your bill. So whether it's making a deposit for a future semester, making a payment online, setting up any refund account, etc. So these are really helpful tutorials if you're in the middle of the night, decide you have a question and we're not available, you might be able to find the answer out on the website itself. For those who are wondering about tuition and fees, if you go to the tuition tab up at the top, you can find all the tuition related information. So for students that are planning to be on campus for fall or spring semester, and you want to know what fees are, we do have a tuition calculator built out there for the normal semesters, non-COVID related. But otherwise, if you just want to know the tuition and fee rates, you can go out there and click, and then you'll be able to see. It does say 2019-20 out there. It will be updated soon to 2021. You'll be able to find the undergraduate rates for regular on-campus or like a normal semester. Or if your students opted in for online for the fall semester, we do have that information out there as well. Okay. And then the last thing I want to focus on is payment options. So again, under payment, the tab at the top, you'll be able to click payment options. And all of our payment options are listed out here. So whether you're trying to send a wire payment, if you want to utilize an installment plan, if you have outside awards to send in to the bursar's office, all that is out here. I do want to notate for the current summer semester, since we're so late into the summer term, there is not an installment plan option available at this time for summer 2020, but come fall 2020, you will have that installment option available. And we will start invoicing fees for fall at the end of July, and that option will turn on and be available through the students' My Purdue portal. If you have an outside award, those need to be sent to the bursar's office, and this is the information where to send those checks. One thing to keep in mind is if the check is made out to both your student and Purdue, then the student needs to endorse the check before sending it to our office. If the check is just made out to the student, then again, they need to endorse the check before sending it to our office. The student should not cash the check and try to send us a personal check because we can't take it as an outside award that way. So make sure that if they do have those checks, they send those to the bursar's office at the address you see here. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ellen to go through the financial aid information and go from there.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to try to share my screen now. Okay. So I'm going to just touch on a few things that are of most importance right at this point in time. There is something called a My Purdue proxy, and this allows students to grant access to certain information in their My Purdue portal through this proxy process. They go to their My Purdue portal, and underneath personal information, they simply select proxy management. They can set up as many proxies as they would like, and each proxy can have their own specific types of access to various information that's out there on their MyPurdue portal. Private scholarships. Michelle told you where to send those checks. I want to remind folks that they need to report those private scholarships to our office. Federal regulations require us to know about all different types of financial aid, and private scholarships fall into that category. That can be done on their MyPurdue portal. They simply select the financial aid awards underneath the award aid year, and there'll be a resource and additional information tab. It's important that they enter each scholarship individually, and then if the scholarship happens to be $600 or more, they need to tell us how that's going to be paid out, whether it's all going to come in one lump sum in the fall, or if it's going to be split equally between the fall and the spring, or between summer, fall, and spring, so that we know how to anticipate that funding coming in. So financial aid is available for summer. There is a summer aid application that early start students will have to complete, and that is on their MyPurdue portal. Summer start students do not need to complete this because we know what their hours and what their enrollment terms are going to be, versus early start students, they vary. So that summer aid application needs to be completed for early start students if they wish to look into financial aid options. There is limited institutional gift aid available for students that are enrolled 6 or more credit hours. For resident students, they have to have an EFC of less than 15,000. And for non-resident students, they have to have financial need and be awarded either a trustee or a presidential scholarship. We are only awarding federal grant money in the summer. We are not awarding any loans. However, if a student wishes to take some or all of their federal direct student loan eligibility in the summer, they can do so again through their MyPurdue portal. Underneath the financial aid tab, there's an area under the financial aid awards where they can select a federal direct loan adjustment request form. This form will ask them how they want that loan eligibility split. So how much do they want in the summer, how much in the fall, and how much in the spring? And this will tell us how to adjust their financial aid accordingly. So accepting aid on their MyPurdue portal, again, they'll go into the MyPurdue portal, and there's a tab next to the resources and additional information where they can accept their awards. There's drop-down boxes to the side of their awards. They click on the drop-down box and either choose accept or decline for those loans. So once they've accepted the loans on their MyPurdue portal, there are still more steps that they need to take for those federal direct loans that they've accepted in their portal on MyPurdue. They have to go out to the studentaid.gov website and do 2 additional steps. One is to complete entrance counseling, and that has to be done since they're a first-time borrower. And then the other one is to complete the master promissory note. Both of these tasks will use the student's FSA ID as the electronic signature. So in order for any federal direct loans to become final, the student has to take 3 steps. First step, accepting it on their MyPurdue portal. And the second 2 steps is to go to studentaid.gov and complete both the entrance counseling and the promissory note. Until all 3 of those steps are complete, those loans will not be finalized. So if you're looking for some additional resources, you can visit our website, purdue.edu/DFA/cost, and then there's a remaining costs section on there. It has some additional details about various different options that families can look into, such as the Direct Parent Plus loan, private loans, 529 plans. So if you're looking for additional types of financial aid to help cover the expenses, that's a good resource for the families to check out. So with that, I'm going to close The Bursar's office contact information is here and our contact information is here. Both offices are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are on Eastern time here. We are happy to help and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. To finish us up, before we move on to our question and answer portion, John is going to go over what we expect for our next sessions.
Thanks, Jen. So next week on Wednesday, July 8th, we'll have our virtual university welcome session. That's in place of our traditional in-person session that we hold over on Loeb, which is one of our large auditoriums on campus, because our events are limited to 150 people. And we want to make sure that parents and family members can attend. So Wednesday, July 8th, 7 p.m., then the evening prior to move-in, we'll have a university welcome session. President Daniels will welcome us. We're really excited to have Mitch with us. For those of you who don't know Mitch, Mitch was the governor of Indiana before he came to Purdue University. He was a director of budget and finance for the entire United States, and he also worked for President Ronald Reagan. So very happy to have Mitch joining us. I'll give an overview of the programs again. Dr. Jenna Rickus, who is our interim vice provost for teaching and learning, will give another overview of the Protect Purdue Pledge. Carl Krieger from University Residences will talk about Steps to Leaps, which is a Purdue initiative within the last couple of years. Elizabeth Harvey will talk about movement so we can go over the process. I'm sure in the weekly updates you've heard about, you'll get Discovery Live. Your students get their room key, they'll get their student ID as long as they're coded and uploaded properly. You'll direct it over to your Harrison or our halls. Elizabeth will go over those details with us. Brian Coker will talk about conduct on campus in the residence halls and a lot of different states. Some of these students bring with them, what can't bring with them, policies that need to come before they move in. And overview of and what it will look like to be hard. We'll take questions and answers, and then your student has a specific link so they can break out into rooms with your student leader. You information again when I send the update on Friday. I'll include a link to join our session.
All right, thank you, John. So we are going to bring all of our panelists back in. A lot of these first questions are for Kathy Scott. So we're going to put you front and center on a lot of these. Very important questions, and I'm sure all of our families are excited to see that or find out these answers. So first off is, what is the advice you have for roommates keeping physical distance? Kathy, I think you are still muted.
Still muted.
There you go.
Alrighty, let's try this again. So asking the question regarding roommates maintaining physical distance, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And really there has been a great deal of effort put in by the university to determine the appropriate square footage in a room for it to accommodate the number of people in a room. So the university has already gone to great lengths to determine that a particular room, dorm room, can accommodate a certain number of people. It is incumbent, certainly, on each roommate to recognize that they still need to do the simple things as keeping somewhat physically distant from one another. The other piece of that is remembering just basic good hygiene. You know, covering your mouth or nose when you think you're going to cough or sneeze, covering it with a sleeve if that's what's absolutely necessary. As soon as you are in contact with things, if you're blowing your nose or anything like that, vigorously washing your hands with soap and water, you know, the traditional 20-second rule on that. Sometimes people suggest sing happy birthday twice, you know, while you're vigorously washing your hands. Keeping hand sanitizer always at the ready, that sort of thing. Making sure that you respect personal space and privacy of belongings. So not touching, you know, not handling your roommate's belongings, that sort of thing. And just being aware that there is enough room in your dorm room to maintain that desired space, but the personal responsibility has to be assumed by the student to maintain that.
All right. So another question for you is, will students have access to the flu vaccine on campus, or will they need to obtain their own?
No, campus absolutely will provide opportunities for students to get the flu vaccine. In fact, Purdue has a fabulously efficient process of rolling out flu vaccines to students, faculty, and staff, and have been very successful at that in the past. And as you might imagine, this year we are doubling down those efforts, and everybody needs to want to be first in line to get that done.
Wonderful. So another question for you, Kathy, is, will all students be tested for COVID by Purdue when they move in? Are they expected to get tested prior to moving into campus?
That is an evolving question, frankly. Our guidance is changing, and it's really changing actually this week a little bit because of the evolving what have been called hotspots and around the country, and the fact that there has been a substantial increase in cases in a variety of places around the country. So some of that guidance is certainly changing. Our subject matter expert group of physicians, which include epidemiologists, include infectious disease specialists, include internal medicine physicians, they are all on daily updates, and those decisions about, quote, mass testing once everybody's here, or asking students or to take advantage of testing at home, those are absolutely evolving issues at this point in time, and guidance will come out to you clearly no matter what the guidance might be.
All right, thank you. So along those testing lines, one of our questions came in. It was, before a student comes home for Thanksgiving, can they get tested so that we know that they don't bring it home to high-risk parents or grandparents? And a second part of that, will parents be allowed to come and visit their child before Thanksgiving?
Okay, two parts. So let's take the first one about the child being tested before they come home. The testing that is occurring on campus that Purdue is providing occurs under a doctor's order. The doctor's order for that test is provided by the medical director for the Protect Purdue Health Center. And I can't say that I know the answer for that for sure. That's a question that hasn't been asked before, but we can certainly find that answer out, and I can share that with John so he can maybe share that to the group. But also remember that there are in Lafayette, just as an FYI, there is a state testing site that is a no-cost, all walk-up availability COVID testing. So that does certainly exist in the community. Our testing is being done more by directed medical protocols, and that is not a specific step in the protocols at this point in time, but I'll see if I can't find out some follow-up information about this. And then secondly, can your family members come and visit you? Certainly. We recognize that part of the experience is for parents to see how their students have been able to adjust and enjoy, and the students want to show off what they're doing to their parents. So we want to be able to facilitate that opportunity. But we will be asking the parents to kind of jump through a couple of hoops, particularly if they are coming onto campus. No exceptions. Everybody wears a mask. Secondly, we would ask you to self-monitor your own symptoms. Again, the temperature is one of those. And as I referred to earlier about that Basecamp app, the functionality of that Basecamp app, we are hoping that will also have a component where a friend or family member can also download it, the app, and if they are intending to visit, we would ask that friend or family member to self-monitor for a certain number of days prior to visiting campus. And when they come onto campus, that date stamp green screen that says good to go, you would need to be able to show that. And that is still in the rolling up to roll out process right now, and in terms of our plans. But we need to also just keep in mind, if you're wanting to come and visit your student, remember, if your student's living in a dorm, you need to be respectful of the fact that they do have a roommate also. That's crowding more people into that dorm room. So maybe the best thing you can do is find some other space where you can meet, get together, and visit. So those are some things to keep in mind.
Awesome. So you talked about the Basecamp app. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Is that available now for students? Is it on the Apple Store, or how will they get information about that?
They'll most likely, that will be rolled out via an email address and a web link. It is not available now. It is being customized specifically to Purdue, which we feel really strongly is one of the real assets that we have, because this is being customized according to our medical protocols, our medical director and our campus intention to maintain a safe environment. So it's not out there yet. And it is really where, only Purdue folks will be logging into or able to register via this particular web link. And as well as family and friends, they will have to be, that information will have to be shared to them specifically to enable them to download their app.
Okay, so obviously that's going to be available for our students who are residential and on campus. Will that app need to be utilized by our students who are going to be doing the online portion this summer?
Not if they are not coming to campus at all. All faculty, staff, and students are expected to get this, but in terms of requirements for daily campus on-site participation, by virtue of being online, that daily check-in, wouldn't be indicated.
Okay. So another question for you, Kathy, is where is the Purdue Health Center going to be located?
The Protect Purdue Health Center is largely virtual, where we have our medical director's office and some of our case manager's office. That is going to be located at what's called, oh gosh, I'm going to show my age. We used to call it the service center, but it's called Purdue West now. And it is actually an area where our Center for Healthy Living is currently located. It's on the periphery of campus, actually out by the residential dorm area. It's on the corner of State Street and State McCormick, I think, is the cross street there. But it's out by the Purdue West Village shopping area.
More questions for you, so I'm going to continue to have you here with us. So they kind of like go in order. So will students be sent to isolation without a positive COVID test, but only with symptoms?
That would be absolutely a call by the case manager. There are a number of scenarios that feed into that, depending on the symptomatology, depending on the scenario that individual student discusses with that case manager. That will lead to testing. Of course, that testing is not going to be for us an immediate turnaround, although we have the tests back sometimes same day, never more than 24 hours after they're taken. Depending on the symptomatology and the case as it's presented, the case manager will make that determination if a student will be moved to isolation while we await the test results.
Okay, so is Protect Purdue Health Center part of PUSH? And if not, is there a form that students can sign so parents can talk to a healthcare professional at the Protect Purdue Health Center?
It is not a part of PUSH per se. It is, quote, stood up as a very distinctly separate entity to cover all things COVID-19. Historically on campus, PUSH has provided healthcare for students and graduate students and their spouses. And the Center for Healthy Living is an opportunity for faculty and staff to utilize a campus-based health center for healthcare needs, and those two have been separate. But it is imperative that we keep our arms around everything COVID-19. So that's why it is under one umbrella. In terms of a separate authorization form, no, we don't have one to allow that communication to occur. But I think if indeed PUSH uses such a communications tool to allow that conversation with the healthcare professional between a parent about their student, if PUSH has one that's already in place, I think probably what I would want to do is explore what that is and see if we can't not reinvent the wheel, but be able to use and apply something that's already in place.
Okay. Along those lines, if a student is tested and is positive, will the Protect Purdue Health Center contact the family, or will that be up to the student to do so?
It'll be up to the student to do so. That is one of those transitions that sometimes is a little bit tough for everybody to make. But if that student is 18 years old or older, it will be up to the student to make.
Okay. I think we're wrapping up with questions for you, Kathy. So I do have a couple more. Is there clarity on how students would receive meals if they are in one of the quarantine spaces? And a second part of that is, how will their health status be monitored actively? Will there be someone checking in on them, or is it just through that telehealth?
Yes, meals are absolutely, we have a very detailed, succinct plan to provide all meals to students while they're in isolation. That is yes. The answer to your second question about checking in and monitoring health status, the answer to that also is yes, and that's done in a variety of ways. We still would expect for that student to be checking in on the app. So that's just the simple routine. It needs to be a habit. It needs to be a habit. So we will have that. We will have video telemedicine calls available, clearly telephone calls, follow-up available, and also, depending again on the situation, in-person staff, case management, direct follow-up. And I would really like to stress, we are managing this by very well vetted protocols, medical protocols. But don't worry or don't be concerned that your student won't get individualized care management. So it still is a conversation directly with the licensed healthcare provider that will direct the individual care that your student needs. And I guess the last thing I would just say also is to remember that this really is a fluid situation. We are, as I said, receiving daily updates on best guidance, evidence-based medicine in this regard. And so our protocols will shift if that's indicated. Our testing strategies will shift if that is indicated. Our monitoring will shift, but that's all done with the best scientific evidence we have, with a commitment to keep students safe, keep our community safe, and keep the vibrant university functioning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Kathy. I think I have one more question for you that is currently in right now that you may be able to answer. So if a student is quarantined, whether they have tested positive yet or not, what is going to be the protocol of someone, a parent or a supporter of that student, to be able to come to campus to maybe help them out or check in on them?
Well, we really need to stress that really needs to be virtual. It certainly, again, should the circumstances change and a student be involved or calling their parent and really concerned, and the health staff's not aware of that or of that level of concern by the student or something, we would really, really encourage the student to, ask, the healthcare provider maybe to call the parent themselves directly. We would have to play that a little bit by ear. But the purpose of isolation is keep a sick person isolated and away from people that are not ill. And so we really need to stress the importance of the parents partnering with us in that regard to help maintain the kind of environment we want. And certainly our goal is without question to support your student.
All right, thank you so much. So we talked a little bit about the Protect Purdue kit that will be available to all of our students upon move-in. Can either Kathy, can you or John talk a little bit about what the masks are, and are they paper masks? Are they fabric masks? What can students expect, or what can family members expect for their students upon arrival?
John, do you want to take that? I think you were more directly involved maybe in getting those kits put together.
Yep, I can take that one. So the wellness kits will be in each student's room. So when your students move in, they'll need to wear a facial covering into the building. Same with parents. Their PPE kit or wellness kit will be on their desk, is where we plan to place them. So there'll be a desk, a t-shirt, a welcome letter. There will be cloth masks so that the students can wash them in the kit. And those are Purdue branded masks for the students. There will be hand sanitizer. There will be some wipes in there as well.
A thermometer, and I think some medicine too. Yeah. We're encouraging, just as John said, to bring markers, right? The dry erase markers. 2 masks is not really going to be enough. I mean, you really want to, have your students come with a supply of masks. And one of the things too that I've been hearing people talk about a lot is gaiters, those things around the necks that then can also be face coverings. I think thinking about a variety of options in terms of face coverings, but I think masks and extra masks are a really important thing to put on your list.
All right. So Heather, this one might be a good question for you to answer as well. Is the Protect Purdue training only for in-person students, or would the students who are going to be online for the summer session be expected to take that as well?
At this point, it's only for students who will actually be on campus, but when students, when and if they decide to come campus, then they would be taking that training before they came. Mm-hmm.
And can you also talk about what the consequences would be for a student who repeatedly violates the Protect Purdue pledge?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because the Protect Purdue pledge is it's actually a campus guideline. It's a guideline that's been approved by the Board of Trustees. So it needs to it is a policy of the university. And so if a student is beginning to show a pattern of not complying, they will be reported to the Dean of Students office, and it will be handled much like any other policy violation is. And so there could be a number of different sort of consequences for students, but it'll depend quite a bit on the particular case, what the situation is. But it will be handled as any other sort of classroom disruption or policy violation. Say things like plagiarism, things like theft. I mean, which is also a crime. I mean, not, at this point though, it's a campus policy violation, so it'll be handled very similarly.
All right, thank you. John, can you discuss the welcome packets that are being sent from the summer programs office?
So we'll be placing a welcome pack in each room for our residential students. So all of the residential students, when you move in, you'll receive your wellness kit or your PPE kit, a Think Summer t-shirt. There will be a letter in the room with you as well. Emerging Leaders Science Scholars will have some custom swag as well from diversity and inclusion.
All right.
One other thing to add is that every student will have a custom orientation schedule. As I mentioned earlier, we used to be able to gather in these large groups, but now with different capacities, every schedule is going to be customized in the room. So there's 27, 28, somewhere around there, orientation groups that students will be divided across, and some groups will be in different areas for their activities. And your group leaders for your students will be trained. They'll be moving in next Tuesday. So we can train them again on Tuesday and Wednesday before students arrive. So some students may be conducting activities over by the engineering fountain, while some are on the Purdue Mall, for example. And that will be detailed and customized for each student.
All right. Thank you for that, John. While we have you here, one of the questions that was asked was, are more classes being offered due to reduced capacity in the classrooms?
So luckily for Summer Start and Early Start, all of our capacities fit in the redesigned rooms, with Dr. Hollick's class being the largest. However, because we have a record number of students participating in the program, just about twice as many as last year, we've added a lot of sections of courses, especially written communication classes like SCLA 101, SCLA 102, EDPS 315, Psych 120. So we've worked with the academic units so that we're able to meet demand for the students.
Thank you, John. So you had mentioned, and this might be more of a question for Kathy, about the classrooms being utilized and to the extent they are. Will the classrooms be cleaned between classes?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So
that's one reason you'll notice on the orientation schedule, as the general outline is what you all have received already. And you'll notice that there's about 2 hours between each of the opening sessions. That's because our larger opening group sessions are intended to last just over an hour, so that there's enough time to clean the rooms and then time for other students to come in.
All right. Kathy, this might be a question for you. So Heather mentioned about the scarves, the face coverings for that. Are the face shields going to be listed as being compliant?
Compliant in the place of masks?
Yes.
Or compliant in addition, or?
Compliant in the place of masks.
No.
Let's see.
I guess I would I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't think any of us could stress enough how important the masks are. They are critical to the success of our ability to stay open. So, I would suggest get as creative as you possibly can. Come to campus with the coolest mask you can find. Come to campus with the wildest mask that you can find, as long as it does the job and covers snugly your nose and your mouth. But take it as a personal challenge to succeed. I don't think we can overstate that.
Thank you. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to get Michelle and Ellen on here with some questions through the Bursar and financial aid. So Michelle, the first one is for you. My son wants to go to BGR, but will be living at home in Lafayette. Does he pay the fee for Boiler Gold Rush online, or does it come out in tuition costs?
If he's registered for BGR currently, then he should already be assessed the $320 on his My Purdue account. So as long as he's coming to BGR in person, then he can just go on his My Purdue and pay that $320 now.
Okay. So this is either for Michelle or Ellen. I'm not sure which one would be best. What information does the parent need to provide to a 529 plan administrator for them to send the payment to Purdue?
I'm going to recommend that they contact their 529 because it seems like everyone's a little bit different than the other. Some send the money directly to Purdue in the form of a check. Sometimes plans will send the money to the parent or well, I guess it'd be the parent, and then they expect them to pay Purdue. I'm assuming they'll want a copy of the invoice, but again, I don't know what their requirements are. So I would contact your plan now, find out what their requirements are, so when you get the bill, or have the bill, you can supply that.
All right. This is about scholarships. Are the Purdue Club alumni scholarships considered outside awards? Or do the clubs communicate with financial aid?
That's a good question, and I'm going to answer with it depends. So some Purdue clubs have donated money to the university, and the university selects students on behalf of the club. If this is not the case, then the student would need to notify us of that award. So basically, if the student doesn't see that scholarship in their financial aid package on their My Purdue portal, they'll need to report it to us.
Okay. Along those same lines, does this go the same for the NROTC scholarship?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. So I believe, Michelle, you talked about a proxy or an authorized user. So what is the benefit of having a student set a parent up as an authorized user?
So authorized user access is going to provide that parent, one, if they need to contact the bursar's office and ask us questions related to that student's account, we're going to verify that they've, one, been authorized by the student. Two, authorized users get email notifications when new e-bills are uploaded to the portal. So they'll have access to the e-bill information. They'll be able to make electronic payments online, so web check payments or credit card payments, those types of payments online. They also will be able to access the 1098-T form at the end of the year. That's the tax form that they're going to be wanting for taxes. So if they're not an authorized user, they're going to have to rely on their student to provide them the information. However, if they just have the student set them up, they'll have their own login and be able to log in and get it.
Okay. Regarding the scholarship checks and outside award, what does a family need to do if they've already cashed a scholarship check? They had no idea that it needed to be reported. And I'm sure this is not the first time that this has happened.
It is not. So if you've already cashed it, I would just keep record of it in case anything comes back towards you tax-wise. Potentially that's considered taxable income at this point. So you'll need to provide that you used it for educational purposes, basically. So in the
And
future,
they should still report that through their My Purdue portal as well.
correct. And in the future, don't cash them, send them to us.
Kathy, we're going to put you on the spot again. So if a student gets sick or quarantined, are parents able to leave campus or are the students able to leave and go home to their parents?
Huh. Well, I'll tell you what, again, I hate to fall back on this. Certainly it needs to be situational and we're going to do the best thing. And we cannot, unless it's by order of the county health officer, we would be in a difficult position to, require the student stay. Now, I can't envision the circumstances off the top of my head that would have our county health officer deeming it necessary for that student to stay right in place. But we would have to be very, very careful about those arrangements, how those arrangements are made, what's communicated to the parents, what's communicated to a health department outside of the Tippecanoe County Health Department. If you're bringing a known COVID positive case to their county, although it's recorded in our county as an initial known case, that would have to be that would certainly need to be situational. I don't feel as though I can make a blanket statement about that. We would absolutely want to work with the parents to have the very best circumstance and outcome we can.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Kathy. We do only have about 5 minutes left. We have several questions that we have not been able to answer tonight. We will do our best to get these answers out to you. whether it's through the panel as we are continuing, or maybe into our next session. I will make sure that John has these, as a lot of them do revolve around move-in and check-in and stuff like that. John, as we finish up here, we do have some questions that I'm going to go ahead and ask you about our move-in process for our summer start and early start students. So are students allowed to bring their cars on campus in case they need to come home early?
Yes, students can bring their or their cars. They don't need a permit for the summer. They'll have to park in university residences spaces, which are signified by white signs.
Okay. Another question is the Discovery lot check-in prior to the official 9 to 11 move-in, or does the 2-hour move-in time include the time spent at the Discovery lot?
It includes the time. So 9 a.m. is the earliest you could check in, and then we'll start funneling you through.
Okay.
There's one about classes I saw, Jen, that I'd like to talk about. So there are some classes, specifically engineering, largest courses that we have. The engineering courses are offered online, but engineering 131, 133 will be of a hybrid nature for students who are actually on campus. So classes can be completed fully online from home. The groups will be comprised of fully online students if your student's fully online. If your student's coming to campus, they will still be doing their lecture online, and that's the same as the fall semester, but they will have residential components. They'll be doing all their group work in person together in Armstrong Hall. So that's different, even though the students are in the same course. Also, really stress if your students are sick, don't come to class. That's a big thing that we're trying to stress this year. We've been talking a lot with the faculty about not requiring attendance points for in-person. That's something that we've shared. And many of our professors they're very flexible. Psych 120, I can go back to Dr. Hollick again, one of our best professors on campus. George's class is offered via the high flex models, we're calling it. So if a student is sick, they're not gonna miss any points. They can complete the course online or any time when they're not in class. Psych 120, it happens to be a very popular class this summer, especially with more online students than we anticipated. And Dr. Hollick has said that if any students need that class, they didn't get it during the batch registration process and they're fully online, they can take his course even if they're not coming to campus. Psych 120 is operating in the same way. So that's just something we want to stress in about classes. A lot of them are going to be hybrid. If your student feels ill at all, we encourage them not to come to class.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I do want to make sure that we get a couple more in here to make sure we're utilizing our time. So a student is moved in or is scheduled for move-in on July 12th. Will instructions be sent on how their move-in will work?
Yes, so I've provided some basic directions on move-in. I'll continue to provide them in my weekly updates, which go to one family member if listed and the student's Purdue email address. And Elizabeth Hartley is going to talk about the move-in process in detail next Wednesday evening.
All right, and one more question. Do students who are going on or doing the online summer program need to attend the July 8th orientation session?
So we'll send a custom orientation schedule out to online students. The schedules are going to be printed in the room for residential students. Online students will receive that custom schedule via email. There are definitely some sessions that are applicable, but not all sessions, like the small group activity, for example, won't be applicable. The technology session on Sunday, the town hall on race, equity, and inclusion on Saturday, and the programmatic welcome session that's either at 2 p.m., 4 p.m., or 6, depending on the program, are probably the most important sessions for online students.
All right. I want to thank all of our panelists tonight for answering a lot of questions and giving our families a lot of information as they get ready to bring in their students. We're so excited to get campus hopping again and seeing our familiar faces with our faculty and staff back on campus as we can. I do want to mention, I know that there are a lot of questions that we still have that we were unable to answer tonight. So I am going to do my best to make sure that we compile these questions and answers. And if you are in our 2020 Admitted Purdue Families Facebook group, I will try to get that information out there. I think I have the session recorded, so fingers crossed that it worked correctly. And if so, I will make sure that John has that information so that you guys can go back and watch any of the information that you need to revisit or things that you may have missed. I know that I had some technical glitches here a little bit and was unable to hear. So we want to make sure that you do have that information handy for you. John, do you have anything else, or Heather or Kathy or anybody on our panelists, anything else that you would like to say before we tell everybody good night?
I can just reinforce we're really excited to see your students and you on campus. I've talked with the president's office this morning, and we're turning on the engineering fountain next week before move-in. So campus is really going to be up, running again, and we're excited to give your students a residential experience.
Thank you all again. Have a great night, and we will see you in a couple weeks.